I've been really looking forward to this one. Really excited to welcome Luke Scott III to New Earth Podcast today. And we're going to be talking about everything quantum, DNA activation, epigenetics, just taking a deep dive and as to where the consciousness connects into all of this picture as well. So welcome, Luke. Wonderful to have you on the podcast today.
Oh, it's my absolute pleasure, Sarah. Any chance I get to geek out and talk quantum and epigenetics is always a good time for me.
Fabulous. Can you just tell us a little bit about yourself, Luke, for those of people that don't know you already?
Absolutely. So I'm a hypnotherapist by trade for the last 7 years, and I've really enjoyed helping people overcome fears, helping people upgrade their lives in all areas. And then I found that we could use hypnotherapy a lot more for health reasons. And I got into something called quantum hypnotherapy, and especially quantum regression. And there's a modality called life between lives. If anyone has never read Journey of Souls by Michael Newton, go and check that out. Fascinating. And what it did for me personally is it opened me up to the interconnectedness of everything. Every single thing in your life that is happening is there. There's some reason, there's some purpose, there's some magic you can extract from it, even the things that we don't like. And so this is what I do now. I help people to feel better about whatever their situation is, to thrive. And it's really funny because if you met me 8 years ago, I was a complete atheist. I was working in corporate. I was a sales director for a software company. I didn't believe in any of this stuff. And I had this huge awakening in 2016, got this connection to what I call my higher self. And all my psychic gifts and abilities started opening up. And it's just been the most incredible last 7 years.
Amazing. I'd love to chat with you some more about what activated that sort of consciousness shift in you and that awakening process. I'm also just talking about the synchronicities. Funnily enough, I was just talking about Michael Newton. Someone mentioned him yesterday to me. It's the first time I'd heard of him. Literally just yesterday. She practices quantum consciousness, which I believe Peter Smith had formed through. I think he's the director now of the Michael Newton Institute. So it's amazing, isn't it, how these things, I'd never heard of it, and now I've heard it twice in 2 days. So
it's one of my highest possible book recommendations. It's completely transformed my life. And Michael Newton's this master hypnotherapist. It worked with thousands of people, and he's massive inspiration for me because I've learned all different kinds of modalities. I did Reiki in 2016. I have been practicing different shamanic things for 7 years. I even lived with a shaman for 18 months. I've done hundreds of all different kinds of weird and wonderful ceremonies. And I think there's so many different ways we can help people. And it's such a great time, Sarah, because when I met you, you practice a whole different way of helping people. And it's, we did a session together and I got to see your magic. And everyone who's listening, there's an infinite number of ways you could use your gifts and abilities. And I think it's so cool that we can share like podcasts and the internet. Like 20 years ago, it wasn't like that. And now you could be tuning in from anywhere in the world, hearing this, and now you could go and change your life by reading those books. So it's a super cool time for me to be alive. I'm really happy we're here in this great awakening. And I love that you're called the New Earth Podcast. I think it's a phenomenal time for us to create a world that we can love to live in. I've got a 3-year-old daughter and a 5-month-old daughter. And I get so inspired and excited thinking, what will the world be like in 10 years' time for these beautiful children? And what can we do if we all come together, which we are doing? It's like, yeah.
And they're all coming in with it, the children. They've already done the work, that we're having to kind of upgrade. They already embody all the structures and crystalline structures and everything that we're trying to awaken in ourselves, I feel.
As soon as my 3-year-old opens her eyes, her energy levels are like nothing I've ever seen. And she doesn't stop all day, and she doesn't want to go to sleep. She's still so much energy, and she's this massive inspiration for me of just wanting to play, and she's so excited all of the time. And I would love for her to teach me how to have that kind of energy levels, because I'm pretty high energy and she's like a whole nother level. So if she's anything to go by, what this next generation of children is, the world's going to be such a beautiful place. Just don't watch the news. Don't believe all of the fear. Go and be with the people who are making the new earth, who are doing these wonderful things, and you'll see the world is a beautiful place.
Absolutely. And we're really stepping into it and creating that together. So let's just backtrack a little bit, because I'd love to hear a little bit about what your awakening and what that process was from working as a marketing, I think you mentioned, into in sales, moving into the work that you're doing now.
Yeah, I worked for a $2 billion company, 16,000 employees, doing software sales, selling accounting software and stock systems. And it was what I thought I wanted. I worked up to a senior manager position. I was making great money, nice house, nice car, all the things you're supposed to want, but I was just miserable. I dreaded going into work and sitting at a computer all day on spreadsheets. And it's like, but that was the dream, apparently, you know. And then I was making, over 6 figures a year in my job, like 10K a month, and it just was not worth it. And then I met these people who were actually happy, and I asked them what their secret was.
Oh, wow.
And they all told me in their own way. They're from different faiths and backgrounds and belief systems. They pretty much all told me that they love God, they love the cosmos, they love this world we live in, and I didn't. And so I started hanging around those people, and they were all into meditation. I didn't know what that was, so I started doing meditation, not from a spiritual perspective. I downloaded this app called Headspace, and you do these short 5 or 10 minute meditations, and I did that for about 6 months. And then I was in Vietnam. I had just done my first ever international speaking gig to like 500 people. It was a seminar, so funny, Sarah. It's called Financial Growth Summit. And I stood on stage in my suit, helping all of these people who wanted to make more money. And I was teaching them, you need to get a goal, and you need to make a plan, and you need to execute. It was so corporate. It was really fun. And then after that, I went to this little island and I did a meditation. And when I did this meditation, everything changed for me. I started being able to feel energy in a way I'd never done before. And this voice started speaking to me in my head that didn't speak to me previously. And it told me, this was the life changer for me. It told me that everything happens for a reason. And when it said everything happens for a reason, it showed me, it's like my life flashed before my eyes, and it showed me all the events in my life. And I've had some challenges and traumas and some difficult things. It showed me why those things happened and how that set me up to be this person now who can do podcasts and write books and be on TV. I have my own TV and radio shows, and people listen to me now because of the challenges I've had. And once that happened, I got this connection to this thing I call my higher self. And it started showing me these visions of what's possible for the future. It showed me that we can heal ourselves almost instantly of even the worst diseases. And that's not far away. It's told me by 2027. So in 4 years' time, that will be common. Quantum healing will be common. The technologies that are suppressed will be released, and you won't have to suffer with these things that we suffer with now. And as the consciousness raises, I think people will eat healthier. They'll stop poisoning themselves. It showed me that we'll live in communities. We'll grow our own food. We'll go back to more of like a tribal system, those of us who want to. And there'll be, and this has happened in other countries in the past. Libya used to be like this when Gaddafi was in charge. Some people would live in the cities, and some people would live in the tribes, in the communities, and they would work together. There was no us versus them. And Gaddafi actually has a book which talks about how we can create a world that's like that. And some people didn't like that. So it's an interesting book if you want to go and read it, though.
Sounds fabulous. I'm sure lots of people will be interested in that, because we've got a lot of the viewers of from the People's Health Alliance, and that's now branching out into the Food and Farming Alliance and the People's Alliance, and it's looking at all the different systems and how we can work together. I'll make sure we put that under the video so people can
Yeah,
take
it's
a look at that.
called The Green Book. And so I get these inspirations, I get these visions, and I just start putting them into practice. So when the lockdown happened in 2020, I got told to make an events company called Future Proof and bring people together and help them to learn about how to live in communities, grow their own food, heal themselves without hospitals. And our events were sold out. It was fantastic.
Fabulous.
So many people want to learn this stuff. So I'm really excited, Sarah. I think this is a beautiful time.
It's super exciting. I'd love to chat with you more about this ability for us to heal ourselves, because I think this is how we're going to enter into this quantum world. So where would you like to start with that, Luke?
I would absolutely love to talk about something called epigenetics. So I've always been very scientific. I did physics for A-level. I always loved understanding how the world worked. And then I got this spiritual awakening. And so I bridged that gap between the science and the spiritual. And I'm right in the middle. And I love that because I can be with the very left brain people and they can get me, and I can be with the very right brain people. And so epigenetics is a field of study that has proven, this is not any science fiction, this is science fact, that when you start changing things in your life, it literally turns on or turns off different genetic sequences. And those genetic sequences can do all sorts of incredible things. Some of those things are anti-aging. Some of those things are quickening your regeneration abilities for your body. Some of those things are deepening your intuition. And it's not that complicated. So I have a group called DNA Activation with Luke on Facebook. And I just took over 300 people through this 14-day DNA activation dieta. So we just did 14 days of eating whole foods. That's one of the main things that turns on or turns off your genetic sequences. And the processed foods that we eat, the seed oils, the sugars, the refined sugars, all of the chemicals, they turn off these things in our genes, and they can prove this. It's been shown. And it's phenomenal what happens when you just eat healthily, organic if possible, and whatever whole foods means to you. I mostly eat fruits. I'm primarily fruitarian, but as long as you're not eating processed foods, your whole life changes. It reverses different diseases, and it can be really quick. Even one of our family members, they had diabetes and they were taking the insulin shots. After 1 week of going whole foods, they didn't need the insulin shots anymore. Just
That's
1
super
week.
fast. It's amazing. I mean, it's an amazing area, isn't it, epigenetics? My understanding of epigenetics, I think it means on top of genetics. You know, that's the origin of the word. Epi means on top of. So it's fascinating because the you know, it's although we might think something's inherited, but it's actually, if it's epigenetics, it's sitting on top of the genetics. So that means that we can actually, if we can change the expression of the cell, my understanding is that we can actually switch it on or off. So something like anxiety inherited from a grandmother that has distorted the genetic code, we can actually switch that off in the, you know, and maybe there was an auntie or an uncle kind of a few generations back that, you know, was very happy and joyful, and so we can kind of switch on that rather than the anxiety from the perhaps abusive childhood of the grandmother or something like that. So it's a very interesting, I don't pretend to understand the science. I have looked at, you know, I have sort of looked into it, but I'm just fascinated in how we can work with it, really.
Yeah, it's so amazing. And one of the big things to shift in our world, if we want to actually help people to heal, is instead of thinking of ourselves purely as physical, solid beings, to think of ourselves as energetic beings. If you zoom in on yourself with a microscope, you are just particles and waves zooming around. That's what you are. That's what everything is. And so when you see that everything is energy, we have this idea, most of us were raised to think our DNA is fixed. Oh, your parents and your grandparents were like that, so that's how you will be. But that's not what we see with epigenetics at all. And if you, again, see your DNA as a wave, as particles, as energy, instead of being fixed, we can actually transform so many of our genetic traits that we've inherited. And so it's a really fun game to play, because when we start doing quantum healing, so quantum just means the smallest possible measurable particles. That's what quantum means. So when we talk about quantum physics or quantum mechanics, we mean we're looking at the energy level, the particle level, the wave level, right? That's like the what it essentially means. So I've just bashed up my knee really badly 2 weeks ago. I was just play fighting with with a 6-year-old. We were rolling around in the garden. I had this big crunch in my knee, and I've got what's called an acute meniscal tear.
Oh, goodness.
And so I haven't been able to walk. I'm on crutches, and I went to the hospital, and they said it can take 6 to 8 weeks before you can walk again.
Okay.
You might need surgery, and they put all of this fear into me about all the things that they do, right? Because for insurance purposes, that's what they have to do.
Sure.
And I've had 5 quantum healings on my knee now. It's we're on day 16 since my incident. I can walk again already after 2 weeks. And there's a combination of, one of the techniques that I teach is called quantum regression. I've also had something called psychic surgery. So psychic surgery is this energetic surgery. And I first learned that 7 years ago. I had a teacher who was an amazing shaman. And they do this healing work, which is non-physical healing. So it's working at the energy level. And it's fantastic, Sarah, what is possible. But the epigenetics, what that does, I believe, because I eat really clean, and you also manage your environmental factors. So if you're surrounded by a lot of toxins, that affects your epigenetics.
Yeah.
If you're surrounded by a lot of negative energy, or people who are making you stressed, and that dampens and turns off some of the sequences. So if you imagine, like I said, these people who are happy, who have healthy diets and lifestyles, who are spending a lot of time in nature, who have worked on their traumas, so they know their nervous system is regulated, there's phenomenal things that can happen. And one of the things that gets a lot of people turned on is the anti-aging piece. So in my book, I talk
Explain how that happens a little bit in terms of, because my understanding of aging is that we're getting behind on healing, because potentially we can be renewing all the cells of our body. I can't remember the maths of it, but it's within, I think bones take a bit longer, but potentially within weeks. So if we had a stomach ulcer, why, I think the stomach lining replaces itself in days, why is that still there, after a few days? And it's these kind of questions that we can look at really with things like anti-aging.
My experiences, and I always say as well, don't believe what I'm saying, go and research it, find out for yourself, get inspired, try it on as a possibility. But this is my truth after 7 years of doing hundreds of clients, and now I'm teaching students. We've got over 150 people learning our quantum regression right now, and some of them have no background in this, so it's not like we're telling them what to say. We've got people who have had pains in their jaw for 10 years. They've had surgeries, all different kinds of things. And in 1 hour, that pain goes forever, never comes back. People healing broken bones. It's phenomenal what can happen. And there's a great teacher, if anyone wants to research this, called Joe Dispenza. He puts people on all the brain scanners. He does all the blood tests. He shows how this all works. And with the anti-aging, here's one of the most important things for everyone to grasp. So the standard model of what they teach with DNA is, on the end of your DNA strands, you have these things called telomeres. And telomeres are kind of like on shoelaces. You have those plastic things on the end of your shoelaces. That's how you could kind of imagine your telomeres. As your DNA replicates, those telomeres get shorter and shorter and shorter, and that's how you essentially age. Your body can produce an enzyme called telomerase. And telomerase slows down and even stops that process of your telomeres wearing away. Now, how do you get telomerase to be released in your body? It's by being in a state of love, care, bliss. That's when your nervous system is in that rest and relaxation, parasympathetic state. That's when telomerase can be released. So I teach this thing, which I learned from a teacher called Greg Braden. Bruce Lipton does it as well. So does Joe Dispenza. It's about harmonizing your heart and your brain, using visualization, using these quantum tools. And allowing your body to release telomerase, and it releases all different kinds of things as well. All you have to do this is get into this state. We call it the quantum state. Other people call it theta healing state or theta state. It's a really slow brainwave state. You just fill yourself with love or care or compassion. And Greg Braden's amazing because he goes and visits these people who live in tribes all over the world who are 150 years old, still active, still strong. And he asks them, what's your secret? And they all say the same thing. They have peace in their heart. They love everyone. They have compassion. And so they're constantly in this state where these amazing telomerase and other things are all released. But most of us in our society, stressed, anxious, worried,
Yes.
in processed foods, it's not possible for those enzymes to be released. And so we can reverse so much dis-ease.
Well, that's the thing about epigenetics, isn't it? It can be, you know, it can be acquired, you know, like you mentioned, you know, with toxicity and things that, you know, traumas in our environment, but we can actually unpick that as well and switch it back off again, all that stuff. So, you know, when we understand that, it's very empowering because we're not victim to our, you know, what we inherited and to our circumstance, you know, and it's, I guess then it's a shift in responsibility, isn't it? Because we can actually change our life on a very, very deep level, potentially.
In the ancient scriptures, I study all different religions, and I've got a friend who's a historian, and he goes to these sacred libraries, and I just did a podcast with him recently, and it's amazing. According to these ancient scriptures, people used to live to be hundreds of years old. That was our norm. 200 years old, 400 years old, 800 years old was like the norm back then, because there was none of these stress or environmental factors or toxins or pesticides or, you know, all the stuff they put in the tap water. There was none of that, right? And so,
Yeah.
and so I think if we all just go and live in the Tibetan mountains, Sarah, and grow our own food, we might be able to live to 500 years old.
But I mean, there's another part to that, you know, I mean, you could say sort of the toxicity and everything, you know, the reason we're not living for such a long time, but is it because the collective consciousness believes, you know, that the lifespan is such, and we've all bought into that? So if we
Absolutely.
start, you know, like this discussion, is the earth flat or is it round? You know, it's I mean, this is quantum physics, isn't it? You know, it's the wave, the particle, it's what we collapse it into. If enough of us believe something, it collapses that possibility into matter. So it's an interesting, you know, it's an interesting one, isn't it?
Yeah, I have a lecture I did on my YouTube channel I spoke at a conference called The Nature of Reality. And it was basically about, is this a simulation or is this really real? And quantum physics and quantum mechanics, they really blur the lines between the real and the unreal, and what's a dream and when are we awake? And like, it's a beautiful game to play with, and a thought experiment to try if you've never tried it before. It's very deep, by the way. So do meditate on that if you haven't before. My belief currently is that this is a game and we can play. And I always loved computer games. I used to work for a software company, so I know a lot about coding, and we're literally made of code. Our DNA is a code, and you can hack it and you can change it and you can upgrade it. And this is what I do with my clients through the energy healing that we do, through the quantum regression and the hypnotherapy. We just basically go and rewire their brains, rewire their nervous systems, and their life changes so fast. Because if you think about yourself as this being, kind of like in the Matrix movies where everything's code, you know, it's all that green code flashing around, and you can upgrade and download. And this is what theta healing teaches. If anyone studied it, you can just download an upgrade in joy into your being. It activates in your DNA, and now you're more joyful. And if you can feel what it feels like to be more conscious, it literally starts switching things on in your body and your being. So this is why meditation and doing this deep inner work it's so powerful, because we just forget. And you talked about something great earlier about your ancestral line. So your DNA holds memories and it holds wisdom. So if you want to have an upgrade in courage, there is someone in your ancestral line who was very courageous. They
Yes.
must be, because you're alive. So at some point, right, you're bred from the people who survived, right? So somewhere there is this, but there's also the opposite of that, there's a lot of fear that might be in your body, in your being. I had this huge fear of being a spiritual teacher. And I signed up with my teacher who teaches this regression therapy. I did 12 sessions with him. It was a 3-month program. And I just cried like a baby every time. and you know, those real deep cries where you get snot everywhere, you know, those real sexy ones. And what came up for me was I saw these lifetimes where we'd been killed or punished or imprisoned for being spiritual teachers. And that was so like deep in my being that it's not safe for me to talk about that stuff.
Yes.
And so once we cleared that, and it was literally like a 2-hour session, you clear that fear, and any hypnotherapist can help you do that, but quantum hypnotherapy does it in a slightly different way. I wasn't scared anymore. And so how quickly can we help people if we can just let go of these things which aren't even theirs? They're from their ancestral line and they're here to protect us, but we just don't need to hold on to these things anymore.
Well, that's the thing. And I think a lot of us have had to clear those kind of persecution energies to be able to speak up. You know, I think it's part of the process. I certainly been through my own journey with that as well. And I think some of it can be past life as well as ancestral, you know, as well as inherited. You know, it can have that resonance as well.
There's a game, Sarah, if you go deep into quantum mechanics, because time doesn't quite work the way that we think it does. So the past and the future, they're not even really real. Quantum physics and quantum mechanics shows us there's just one moment. And so it's all happening just in a different place right now. And this is what we do with our consciousness. We can go into these past timelines, and we can go into these future timelines, and we can start to change and play with them, because everything is able to be changed and played with. And so, yeah, people can have these amazing visions where they see themselves in the future, having already done all the things, whatever it is they want to do. And they can go into the past and they can see. I saw this lifetime where I was a Buddhist monk, or it might have been, it was like in a monastery. When I connected to him, he was so peaceful because he'd mastered it, thousands of hours of meditation. I got that feeling of what that was like to have peace in my heart, like real peace. And after that connection, my meditation just became so much better.
Yes.
Because I knew what peace felt like. And so you just then have to keep tuning into that frequency, bringing it into your being. And it's phenomenal.
Well, it's embodying it, isn't it? You know, it's almost like, you know, the archetypes, you know, from the planets, and there's so much in nature and so much out there, and through different time and space, you know, it's coming into our sort of multi-dimensional, you know, aspect, and embodying and reclaiming really these different parts of ourselves that have kind of perhaps got lost or disassociated. And I love the fact that you bring in this idea of playing, because for me, that's absolutely key. You know, like the work that I do, I approach it like, let's play the Acunet game. You know, it's called Acunet, the therapy that I do. And I'm like, let's play the Acunet game. Because I think if we can embody this playfulness, this joy, you know, it's like there's the potentiality to kind of to shift it much more easily.
I know what it was like when I was really serious, and I know what it's like when I'm really playful, and how that feels in my body and how it affects my nervous system. And life's just so much more fun when you're in play. And it's nothing to do with how much money you've got in your bank account or anything. I was just with my daughter on a park, and I was swinging on the swings, and we're playing, and you know, anyone can go and do that. And obviously, you know, we do live in a world where most of us, or a lot of us, we are needing to pay bills or needing to pay for our homes, or for whatever it is. And so there's pressure, and there's different kinds of stress. So there's something called EU stress, and EU stress is like a positive pressure. I get that when I have a deadline. I just switch on this next level mode when I have a deadline.
Right. Yeah.
Just I get 10 hours of work done in 2 hours. It's just something magic switches on. So this is what our ancestors would play with. That's the kind of stress they would really work with. But we have all of this background stress, which isn't really necessary and needed because we take things so seriously. So it's my invitation for people just to realize what really life is all about, which for me is to be enjoy it. Like, enjoy life is to be enjoyed, even the really challenging parts, like my knee. You know, it's not been the easiest thing to not be able to pick up my daughters and to have to adjust.
Sure.
I've loads of joy in it because I've learned so much about myself, about my support system. So even if you have a disease, if any of you are listening right now and you've got depression or anxiety or any kind of physical health or mental health, I just did a post yesterday. I said, who would love an emotional energy clearing? Got like 30 people said yes. I think so many people have these emotional blockages right now. Like, please go and find someone who can help you release it, whether it's Sarah, whether it's myself, or whether it's whoever you know who's an amazing space holder. Like, don't hold on to all of this stuff, because energy can never be created or destroyed. It's only transferred. So if you keep pushing this stuff down, it becomes more and more dense, it becomes more and more solid, and then it ends up becoming some kind of dis-ease. And every disease, including my knee or whatever you're going through, it's here to help you. Once you figure out, it's just showing you, hey, there's some area of your life that's not aligned right now. I don't know what that is for you. Maybe it's your trauma from your childhood. Maybe it's the foods that you're eating. Maybe it's the job you're in or your family life. All we do in quantum healing is we just hold the space to see what needs to be aligned, and things can change so quickly.
Amazing. You mentioned that you might give a little bit of a sort of session, a quantum healing session, or I'm not sure how you want to do that. This might be a really good moment, because I'm really game for it, but I know you go really deep, Luke, so you might have to hold the rest of the podcast afterwards.
There's the different ways that you can play with this. So I would absolutely love to, for everyone who's listening in, we'll probably do around 10 minutes, just a nice process. And I'll demonstrate how quickly you can switch on your epigenetics. I think that can be a really nice one. So we'll set the intention that by the end of this, you all feel absolutely amazing. Please do be responsible if you're driving. Just check in if this is suitable for you to do. Don't close your eyes if you're driving. If you're safe and seated and you can, please do close your eyes. Take some nice deep breaths into the belly. So when you breathe in, you could maybe imagine the air coming down through your chest. Imagine the air coming down into your belly. Maybe you can even imagine the air going all the way down to the base of your spine. So when you breathe in, it's really connecting you in with these lower energy centers. Take a moment to feel what it feels like to be really grounded. Take a moment to feel what that feels like, to be fully in your body. Maybe you can feel the weight of your body on the floor or the chair or wherever you are. Just taking those nice, sweet breaths into the belly. And here's how quickly you can change your state. If you imagine now, and remembering that whatever you vividly imagine, your body doesn't know the difference between if it's imagined or if it's real. So if you just let your imagination flow, if you vividly imagine now, you are surrounded in the most pure and beautiful love that you've ever felt. Whatever that looks like to you, wherever you believe that purest love comes from, you might see it as a color, it might be a feeling for you. We all have different ways to play. Just imagine your entire being, your entire room is filled with this love. And as you imagine that, see as you breathe in now that you can breathe this love into your body. So every time you breathe in, breathing in this love, maybe you can see it if it's a color coming into your body, filling you up, and then breathe it out. And every breath you take, you get more and more filled up with this love energy. Maybe you can even feel your cells start to upgrade, your DNA start to upgrade. Maybe you can literally feel your vibration raising. Just breathe, soften, relax, and allow this love to come and fill up your being. Maybe there are some other colors there too, if there's any other colors that are in your highest good or any other energies. Asking that whatever you breathe in allows you to be in your optimal energy so you can thrive for the rest of the day. So what we're doing here is we're switching on our parasympathetic nervous system. You can even place a hand on your heart if you'd like to. Placing a hand on your heart is a signal to your body that you're safe. We don't do that when we're in a danger situation. And breathing slowly and sweetly, again, tells your body that you're safe. Don't do that when we're in a danger situation. So if you can see how quickly you can start to change your state. So from this place, we can do a short exercise to help harmonize the neural network in our brain with the neural network in our hearts. So your heart has these things called sensory neurites. This is a physical thing. They can find them when they do autopsies. You have 40,000 of these sensory neurites in your heart that can think, learn, and act independently of each other, similar to how the neurons in your brain work. Now, these neurites in your heart, they have full memory recall, and they don't go through the filter of your ego. So tuning into this heart wisdom is a beautiful practice that you can bring every day or multiple times throughout the day. Just close your eyes, take a few deep breaths and tune in. You can maybe even imagine this neural network forming between your heart and your brain. There's an amazing institute called the Institute of Heart Math that you can go and learn from. They've studied the human heart extensively, and there are so many wonderful gifts and abilities that can come when you start operating from this heart wisdom. So I'd love to invite you to take a moment now to imagine standing in front of you someone that you really love. So imagine someone who you just love so much, and it's so easy to love them. And as you can imagine them there, just see how they look, see how they feel, and send them as much love as you can. Maybe imagine the love coming from you. Maybe you can imagine how they would receive that love. How will they feel just knowing you're sending them this beautiful energy right now? And remembering that you are surrounded in love, and the more love you give out, the more love that comes back to you. So you can send out this love from this pure place, and it will come back to you tenfold and more. And what we're doing now here in this moment, we're being in a state where our body can start to release these amazing things like telomerase. Greg Braden, he shares that just 3 minutes of doing this every day triggers this incredible release that changes your bioenergetic field for around 6 hours. So can you imagine? We just teach this to children, to everybody in the world. just to send love, to being compassion, to being caring for just a few minutes. The health impacts that can have. Thank you, beautiful person that showed up here today. We'll let them go off now to the highest and best place for them at this time, and come back into your body again, taking that deep breath into the belly and out. Maybe saying a big thank you to your amazing body. I like to give mine a big hug. I like to give mine little kisses as well. Taking some time to say thank you to this body that you have, this body that is your partner, this body that allows you to feel, allows you to love, to taste, to touch, to smell. This amazing vehicle that you've had your whole life, that's always upgrading itself, it's always evolving. Every moment, new cells are made in your body. Every second, it's around 800,000 new cells are made in your body. That's 800,000 new cells every second that have never been commanded before. So what do you command them with? Command them with your thoughts and with your feelings. So what would you command these 800,000 cells that have just been made with right now in this moment? What's your deepest wish for yourself, for the earth? When you take this time to load this into your body, it's literally a part of you now. It's in your cells, it's in your DNA, it's activated in your energy field. You'll go through the rest of your day in a totally different state of attraction. So I invite you, make the time to do this at the start of your day. Do this multiple times throughout the day. Put whatever you would love into your energy field. Relax and calm your nervous system. Switch on these different genetic sequences. Remember how powerful you truly are. And you'll just have the most amazing next chapter in your life. And so when you feel ready, coming back to feeling the earth beneath your feet, and the weight of your body, the chair, or wherever you are. Thanking whoever or whatever you believe in for this life, this experience. When you're ready, you can have a nice stretch. Open your eyes and come back fully to be here. And if you would like to, it can be a really wonderful time to journal down anything that came up for you. Please do let us know in the comments as well if there's anything in particular that you'd love to share. And yeah, it's my absolute pleasure to guide you through that process.
Thank you so much, Luke. So is this the process that you take people through when they're doing the quantum regression work?
So I have learned, after studying for 2 years with this amazing regression master, this process which takes you to the root cause of anything that shows up. It's this 11-step process that we basically teach. It just takes 6 hours to learn. I made it into an online course. So if any of you would love to learn it, please do come. It'd be amazing to have you in our tribe. We're on a mission to get 1 million practitioners learning how to do this by 2027. 2027 is what I've been shown is when we transform the whole world by. Some people on the earth have this 2030 plan. I don't know if you heard about it, but we're doing our plan by 2027. So
I've heard we're ahead of time with that 2030 plan. So I think some people talk about 2032 as well. So because I think it's a 20-year window from 2012 to 2032. So yeah.
So 2027, we'll have the whole world transformed. And yeah, it's a super simple process. Anyone can learn it. If you're already a practitioner of it, we get a lot of like Reiki masters, hypnotherapy masters. They come and they do the course and they say it's the best thing they've ever learned. And the reason why I think it's so powerful is it's just really direct. and it's so fun for me. We only launched the course in November 2022, and so it's my first time launching a modality. If anyone here can support me with that, please do. It's I just get these visions. I get told to do stuff. I'm brave and I do it. And I think Sarah's the same, you know, having your own podcast and saying these things that most people are too scared to say. It can be quite intense, but I believe it's really important for us to do that so we can create this world where our children and our grandchildren can thrive. And I love being around these people. I call them the visionaries. So I do a conference once a month called the Visionaries, and we get people together who have these visions for how to transform the world. It's so fun because everyone's a mover, a shaker, they're inspirational, and we're all doing different things, right? So some of us are doing reforming the education system, some are doing the healthcare system, food production. It's like there's so many beautiful areas that we can upgrade, and it's up to us how we see the world. I love memes. I find them so funny. There's a meme where you're looking outside of this bus, and on one side you can see all the doom and gloom, and you can focus on that if you want. And on the other side, you can see the upside to everything. And every day you get that choice. And I think there's definitely an importance in looking at the problem so you know how to solve it. But don't get too focused on the problem. Don't get trapped down that hole for too long. Focus more on the solutions and what you do really love to create. And I got caught in that for a while. I went down some pretty intense rabbit holes. Didn't serve me. Now
Me too.
I've learned that that's not my highest path. I dip into the problem, understand it as much as I need to, and then focus on solutions.
Absolutely. And like you say, you know, there's so much we can download. You know, we're being helped in this process of finding solutions, you know, so we can, if we ask, we can download a lot of supportive energy as well. I'd love to just chat a little bit, just backtracking a bit to your class that you're doing, because one of the things I don't think you mentioned was when people have done the first stage of it, they can then access, you know, any other practitioners that are working with this, that there's a system of kind of trading with each other, as I understand, which for me is an incredible resource, because I don't know about you, Luke, but I tend to try and have a session a week at least, just because, you know, things are moving quickly and I want to keep on top of it, you know, so.
Yeah, I usually book in 2 sessions a week on myself. One ideally something physical like a massage, and one something energetic like a Q-RIT session or some other kind of quantum modality. Some weeks I have 3. But yeah, so if you join our Q-RIT community and if you come and learn Q-RIT, you can practice with the other practitioners as much as you want. So you basically get unlimited therapy for life. Q-RIT stands for quantum regression and integration therapy. So that's the modality that we teach. And why the integration is so important, Sarah. So if anyone has studied shamanism, if you actually lived in a tribe and you go and you do some of these ceremonies, then you bring the wisdom from the ceremonies into the tribe and you start living it. That's not how it works with most people I see. We go and do these ceremonies and then we're back to a job that we don't like. We're back to a family where we're highly stressed and we don't make the time for the integration. So if you do come and be a part of the community, you get to do the sessions with the other practitioners. We all support each other to actually integrate the things that we learn. Because getting the breakthrough, one of my friends says this, and I think it really makes sense. Getting the breakthrough is like 20%, but then actually following through and integrating it is the 80%. And most people are always looking for the breakthrough, but they don't go and do the follow through. And there's a quote. It's like everybody wants to do ayahuasca, but no one wants to go and do the dishes afterwards. So it's like go and do the ceremony, but then actually go and do the work as well. Like integrate it.
And it's like you can have that aha moments, but then it won't necessarily stick unless you kind of create those new neural pathways, you know, through kind of keeping going with it.
And having a supportive community where you have shared language to be able to talk about the things. And
That's
so
key. It's absolutely key. And it's part of New Earth. It comes up over and over again in New Earth podcast, this community building and finding your tribe. So it sounds like you've set up a real beautiful tribe there for connection.
It's one of my superpowers. Yeah. And we attract people from all different walks of life. We did a survey. It was like 85% of the people in the community already have some kind of modality. So Reiki or theta or hypnotherapy or shamanism or something. And about 15% are brand new people, Sarah. And that's really exciting.
That's fabulous. Yeah.
Like, first thing they've ever learned. And I'm loving it. It has been quite intense. It's a whole new thing for me that I've never done before. But that's where life gets really fun, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think we're all stepping into newness at the moment. And if we're not, it's probably quite an uncomfortable journey for people, to be honest, because we're being asked to, aren't we? Shake things up quite a lot.
Shake things up. And I think a lot of people get stuck because they think they have to do everything by themselves. But my journey is collaboration. And so we support each other, right? We do podcasts, we share each other's stuff out, we help, everybody wins. And so that's how I work in my businesses. I don't try and do everything by myself because that's not fun. I did try that, but it didn't work, just burned me out. And so if anyone is listening and you're thinking about doing a podcast or learning quantum healing or whatever it is you're doing, find a great group of people who you can support you, who you can collaborate with. It makes it so much more fun.
Totally. And it's interesting when you put that out to the universe. Like, I just keep finding these great networks now, just that they just keep appearing because it's part of my consciousness.
And the internet has changed the game. When I
Yes.
was a kid, there was no internet. I basically lived in the library, devouring information. And now it's just so easy to connect with people. People could be listening in here from Africa, Australia, America, right? Everywhere. And it's phenomenal. It does come with a challenge, though, because I believe that we're all here with our individual missions in a way. Like, some of us are here to clean up the oceans, and some of us are here to help with healing and reforming the healthcare system. But because we can see everything, it can be overwhelming for people.
Yes.
And the news shows us what's happening in all these places all around the world, and kind of think we have to fix everything. But I don't believe that's the optimal way. We can focus on one thing, do that thing you're here to do. If you're here to clear up the oceans, amazing. Go find the other people who are doing that, collaborate, and we'll have the oceans cleaned up in no time.
I really learned that moving to Portugal because we're setting ourselves up self-sufficiently, and it can be like reinventing the wheel. Everyone's trying to work out how to put up solar panels and renovate this and that and everything. And I've just made a decision, you know what? That's not my path. And this is the work that I want to be doing. So I want to be self-sufficient, but I'm handing a whole load over as well, if that makes any sense.
Meditate on how tribes work. Like, look at tribes, okay? You have this amazing ability with all of your skills to heal people and upgrade people. So you would be one of the medicine people in the tribe. The medicine people in the tribe, they don't go do the hunting, gathering. They don't build the houses, right? They don't wash the clothes. They do what they're really good at. Everyone else does what they're really good at. So we bought land in Mexico. We have 130 acres, and we're 2 years into the project. We've got 30 families, and we're all making a go of living together and growing our own food. I won't be the person building the houses because I don't know how to do that. I'm great at guiding people.
Yes.
So I'll probably have a go at planting some fruit trees, but I'm not the person who's going to be there nurturing them every day, pruning them and all of that, because that's not my highest joy. But someone else, that will be their absolute dream. That's their dream life.
I haven't quite managed to hand over the what was it you said, hanging out the washing and the dishes and stuff. Yeah, I have to work on that one.
Oh, it's really, really easy, Sarah. So I don't really like cleaning. I don't really like cooking. I just never have done. It's not my highest joy. So since like 7 years now, we have a cleaner who comes.
Yeah. No,
not
we're
very.
the same. We do the same. We hand over a lot. We hand over what we can. So
My
yeah.
first ever like actual business I had was when I was 20 years old. It was an ironing shop. I had a shop. We had 4 people who worked there. We had the delivery van. We'd go and pick up people's ironing. The people would do it in the shop. We'd drop it off the next day. They would pay us a really good money.
That's part of the looking after the community, isn't it? You know, it's like my daughter's having sewing lessons and circus. You know, we try and make use of all the different skills in the community. Any last thoughts before we finish up today, Luke? And also, how can people get in contact with you? Because I know that you mentioned a Facebook group.
Yes, so many thoughts. Let's finish off on the ironing piece, because the people who worked in that ironing shop, they loved ironing and they were so good at it. They could iron a shirt in 60 seconds and it would take most people 5 minutes. And so when we work in this way, where people actually do what they love, it's so much more efficient. The people who love cooking in the tribe would do the cooking and the food's going to taste so much nicer. And the people who love farming do the farming, and you're going to get the most incredible crops. And it's like, at the moment, we're all doing things we don't actually like. And it's just backwards. And so this is my invitation to all of you. You will have a friend who loves cleaning. They will just, that will be their meditation. They could clean your house and you could help them with their whatever it is that you love doing, and then everybody thrives. So that's my invitation to you all. If you're not enjoying your life right now, there's very few things I do in my life that I don't enjoy. And it does take a bit of work to get a great system in place and to find the people who can really support you, but I think this is what we're moving into. And so on that note, if I can support you in any way, please get in touch. Sarah will pop all of the links below for everything. But probably my best invitation for you, if you are interested in DNA activation and epigenetics, I have a completely free group. It's called DNA Activation with Luke. You can just search for it. It's a Facebook group. I've got over 10 hours of content in there about epigenetics. We have a free course on this 14-day DNA activation diet. And I've got so many deep epigenetic upgrading meditations in there. So go jump in. It's absolutely free. It's just my gift to all of you. It'd be great to have you, and then we can get to know each other better as well.
Thank you so much. I'm certainly going to look that up as well. And, you know, I'm certainly excited about learning more about all that you do. It's been a wonderful journey. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today, Luke.
Oh, it's my absolute pleasure. And everybody make sure to go book a session with Sarah as well. She's absolutely incredible.
And likewise with Luke. Luke's an absolute star. It was very, very deep work that I did with Luke when we did a swap. We might need to do another one, Luke, for your knee. We might need to book in another one. All right, then.
Absolutely.
Blessings, everyone, and see you next time. Bye for now.